जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3, text 6. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyardhan vimudhatma mithyacharaha sa uchyate. So here Krishna says, one who karmendriyani samyamya, one who controls one's senses, samyamya, controls one's senses, karmendriyani. Karma indriya means the indriyas which are meant for action, karma. So karmendriyani samyamya yaha, one who aste manasasmaran, he is engaged in thinking about them, manasasmaran. So here it is said, Krishna is saying, karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmaran. If one thinks of sense objects within, but is trying to control the senses from outside, but always thinking of them enjoying within, he is vimudhatma, indriyardhan vimudhatma mithyacharaha sa uchyate. That means that person is mithyachara, he is just a pretender. Mithyacharaha sa uchyate. So here Prabhupada mentions how there are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness but make a show of meditation while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. Such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers. But according to this verse, these are the greatest cheaters. For sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity of the social order, but if one follows the rules and regulations of his particular status, he can make gradual progress in purifying his existence. So basically, the point here is that don't pretend to be somebody that you are not. If you are having, or if you want to have some kind of a name and fame, and want to become some kind of a yogi or a guru or a sannyasi, don't do that artificially just for name and fame. Because internally you are pretending to be somebody, but internally you are having all these kinds of desires, isn't it? So that is called mithyacharaha. That is a pretender only. It's a bluff. So you will cause a lot of disrepute to that social order. That is why a lot of times when a sannyasi or a guru or a yogi, they fall down, do something questionable, do something abominable, it brings a disrepute. It shakes the faith of people in that particular social order. And it's not good for you also, because constantly you have to act who you are not. So there is a nice moral story in this connection. There was this fox who was running around and lost its way and was meandering along in a village. And it got scared and started running around looking at people, and in one place they were doing some painting, and there was this painting tub which contained a blue color paint that they kept for painting a house. And so it fell accidentally into the tub. And now it has completely become colored into blue. And then started to run away, and finally it found its way and entered the forest. So it's a jackal basically. And it looked completely different, a different species altogether, coming from some higher planets or some other entity. And then the forest animals, they started to look at this jackal, and they thought some god has appeared in this form, after all, poor animals. And they started to treat him like god, respecting him and offering him all kinds of eatables. And then this jackal, he was thinking, oh, now he has become completely a different person. Now he needs to be respected as God. He has become the leader, and he started to take advantage and abuse them and do all of that. And suddenly one day, one night, he heard some jackals howling from a distance. And obviously, naturally, it is his instinct, isn't it? And he started to howl like a jackal. And then they all figured out, no, he is not God, he is not somebody special. He is very much that same jackal who lost its way and who was a fool. And then they started to attack him, and he ran away from that place. And he got his lesson. And then he realized it is because of the blue color that he was put into that position, which he is not. So basically, the point is that you accept one dress, you accept a saffron dress, or you become a yogi or a pseudo meditator, started to teach people, see how great I am, and you do this, do that, but internally you are not doing, and internally you have all kinds of desires. But people are putting you on a pedestal and worshipping you and honoring you. Oh, such a great person. But the moment jackals howl, but the moment there is an opportunity for sense gratification, your natural instincts come out, and you will do something which is not befitting that position. So that is not good. And that is why it is said that karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmaran. If you are always thinking of that within but doing something else outside, that is mithyacharaha. So we have to understand that in conditioned state, we all have 4 defects. What are these 4 defects? We all have imperfect senses, isn't it? Nobody can say, I have perfect senses. Nobody can say that my senses are so perfect that I can see things as they are. Sometimes we are mistaken to see a rope as a snake, to hear something and understand something else, isn't it? When we cannot even comprehend a person's statement, because the way the statement is read, we can think of something else. So there were 2 people, they were fighting, and somebody came and stopped. Why are you fighting? And the other person said, no, he told me I stole his pen. And he said, no, I never told you he stole my pen. So what did you tell? I never told he stole my pen. That means I told he took away my pen. So that means he wanted to say, I never told, he wanted to say he took away my pen forcibly, but he used the word stole the pen. And then this person thought, oh, he is laying allegation that he stole my pen. I stole his pen. So like that, people can easily misunderstand because they have imperfect senses. And we are illusioned, and we commit mistakes, and we have a tendency to cheat others. So these are the four defects of the conditioned soul. And so in this state, when we are conditioned, we cannot understand the supreme reality. If somebody comes and tells us about supreme reality, in this conditioned state, we cannot evaluate whether that is correct or not. Achintya khalu ye bhava natam starkena yojayet. A pretender may come and say, oh, supreme absolute truth is impersonal. And then we look at the pretender and, oh, he has so many followers. And then we accept it as truth. But actually, it may not be truth because he is conditioned and you are also conditioned. So therefore, we have to accept from God, who is not conditioned, from Krishna, the supreme absolute truth, who is not conditioned, who is beyond these four defects. Accept the words of Krishna as they are presented in Bhagavad Gita, or a representative authorized by Krishna in disciplic succession. Because they are following the word of God, they are not conditioned. So therefore, we need to accept only from them, not some pretenders and cheaters. So there was one time a newspaper clipping was received during Prabhupada's days. One disciple brought this newspaper clipping about some yogi, some famous yogi in those days. And he brought that to Prabhupada and then showed that article. And then Prabhupada commented, simply rubbish. Anyone who reads this article will understand how bogus he is. Because that article said this yogi can fly. So Prabhupada said, so one can fly, what does he gain? These crows, they are also flying. So he has become a big crow. Even a small insect can fly. At night, there are many thousands of millions of such insects. Are they important? A mosquito can fly at 300 feet high. And in the restrooms, there are flying cockroaches. So is this flying very glorious? So Prabhupada exposed these kinds of people who deceive ordinary people. Because ordinary people, they don't understand what is the barometer of a spiritual person that Krishna explained in the previous chapter. How to understand who is a actually self-realized person. And then they just show some tricks, some yoga perfections. Prabhupada one time he said, oh, the so-called yogi or so-called God man, or one who claims that he is avatara, when he gets some tooth pain, he is going to the doctor and then he claims he is God. So what kind of God he is? He is surrendering to a doctor. So Prabhupada's point was simple. Instead of surrendering to these fallible miracle men, surrender to Krishna, who is infallible. He is Yogeshwara. He is the master of all yogic powers. And the original source from whom all these people, they actually derive their power. Anybody has any power in this world derives that power from Krishna, including that of the greatest demigods. You see, Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma praises Krishna in so many verses, saying that even Durga Devi derives her power from Krishna. Even Ganesha, who is the head of the obstacles, who can remove obstacles. He derives the power to remove obstacles because he is always meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. And Lord Brahma derives his power, Lord Shiva derives his power from Krishna. So, what to speak of the other demigods? They're all deriving power from Krishna. What to speak of lower than the demigods, the ordinary human beings? Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam srimad urjitam evava tattat evavagachatvam mama tejomsya shambhavam. Whatever you see, a spark of brilliance, a powerful manifestation in this world, it is nothing but coming from a spark of my splendor. Just a spark of my splendor, Krishna says. In fact, this whole material manifestation is being maintained by a, a partial manifestation of Krishna, which is the super soul. So, what to speak of Krishna himself? So, when things go out of order, dharmasya glani happens, the Lord incarnates and sets things in order. When things are mismanaged by so called kings and heads of government, so when a king or governmental head does not follow the proper principles, nature gives the punishment in the form of war, famine, and so forth. So if the government head is not aware of life's goal, he should not take charge of ruling the people. Actually, the supreme proprietor of everything is Lord Vishnu. He is the maintainer of everyone. The superiors like the king, the father, the guardian, they're all representatives of Lord Vishnu, empowered by him to look after the subjects. So it is a duty of all these people to maintain their subjects in a way that people ultimately understand that the goal of life is Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Nate viduhu swardhagatim hi Vishnum. Unfortunately, these heads themselves, the governmental heads or any heads, caretakers, they are themselves not able to know the ultimate goal of life, including these bogus gurus, sadhus, who are not Krishna conscious, who are not representatives of Krishna, who have no understanding of real spirituality, who pose themselves as the role models, but they are not. So you don't have to portray that you are at some level for cheap adoration. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appreciated our humility. He said, "You be humble and don't pretend, don't artificially accept a position that you are not. Even if you are a humble householder, or even if you are born from a Sudra background." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciates if you recognize your position, then you become puffed up and think somebody greater. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Trunadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniyaha sadaharihi. So one should consider oneself lower than a blade of grass, and one should be more tolerant than a tree, then one can progress in spiritual life. One can happily chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if you become puffed up, then you will not be able to chant the holy names of the Lord in humility, because that requires surrendering spirit, that requires us to accept that we are infinitesimal. If you consider you are great, then your mood will be different. You cannot feelingly approach the Lord. Like it is said, Janmaishwarya Shrutashribhir Edhamanamadah Puman Naivarhati Abhidhatum Vai Twamakinchana Gocharam. You cannot feelingly approach the Lord. Naivarhati Abhidhatum Vai. If you are born into Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta and Shri, good birth, good wealth, great education or intelligence, abilities, and beauty. One who has these things, he cannot feelingly approach the Lord. The Lord is approached, can be understood by akinchana. Tvam akinchana gocharam. One who thinks he has nothing in this world. One who remains very humble. Only for that person, the Lord becomes gocharam, revealed, understandable. So it's better we remain in whatever position we are in. Sthane sthitaha shrutigatam. We can make progress. Krishna welcomes everybody. Mam hi pardhavyapashritya yepi syuh papayonayah striyo vaishyas tadha sudras tepi yanti param gatim. One may be anybody by birth. One may be born in any class of family, not be very fortunate to be able to understand Vedic culture, not very fortunate to be comprehending scriptures, not very fortunate to be born in a family with good habits. But they all can, once they take shelter of Krishna, they can all be elevated. But they don't need to artificially become puffed up. Oh, now I've become Krishna conscious, now I can act like I am above all of these classes. No. One should remain humble. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends this principle. You stay in your position. Whoever you are doesn't matter. You can all progress. Sthane sthitaha. And what you have to do? Stay in your position. Shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir. You just try to hear about Krishna from a person who is a pure devotee of Krishna. Giving up gnane prayasam, giving up mental speculation to understand God. These bogus gurus and the pretenders, they don't surrender to a spiritual master. They think they are self-made spiritual masters. So that is called gnana. They are mentally speculating about God without submitting and getting the knowledge from a realized person. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends you give up that mentality. Gnane prayasam udapasya. You become humble. Namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam. So sanmukharitam, from the mouths of Sat, the pure devotees, bhavadiya vartam, O Lord, your varta, your katha, if one can hear Shruti that person can make progress, even if he remains in a humble background. So don't get deceived by the pretenders. Accept the true spiritual master. And you don't become a pretender. Be situated in whatever capacity you are in. Then you will make progress. And that's what Prabhupada is saying in this verse. I'll stop here. Anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself.